we've made it. Our longest development product to date. Our Sistine Chapel, the one, the only, the Lectric ONE. You know, I think we should probably give people perspective of why this product exists, and it was to be the one, like the one and the only. When you make a list of the best bikes under $10,000, we want this to come in as number one, right? When you are thinking of what commuting bike you should have, the list should start with the one.
So yeah, I mean, when Robbie and I were talking about this, and it was like, okay, well, let's understand what that ultimate commuter is, or let's build out the scenarios. And so you guys had tossed it back, or Robbie, you tossed it back in my court of like, give it to me. And I came back to the table with like one option. It was like, no. We need like 6 options to consider. I was like, oh, okay, you know, like let's do it. So yeah, I mean, it was a lot of that at first of like, you know, should it have a mid-drive? Should it have a derailleur? Should it have X, Y, and Z? And understanding like, okay, what are those options and where you do the pro-con for who that ultimate commuter is. We have a lot of customers. We've got trike customers, 3.0, Expedition, X Premium, 2.0 customers that are reporting thousands of miles on their bikes.
North of 10,000.
It's like it's like another data point where it's like, okay, a lot of our electric customers, like that is how they're using the bikes, is thousands of miles. And so this is another testament to our customers to say we want to offer the best of what we can, you know, keep them riding on the road and keep them out of, you know, the shop getting things switched out.
I had an old beater bike with a derailleur system, right? And I was never properly maintaining that thing, you know, lubricating the chain every so often, wiping dirt off after rides through rain and puddles and mud and dirt and grime and all this stuff. And my bike wore out pretty quickly as a result, as you would imagine, right? And it's like, it's one of those things where I was busy, right? I was working, I had school, you know, I've got friends, I've got all of these things. We all have very busy lives, and it just, you know, it's not something that I think most people think about. They think with their car, right? It's like, that thing just works day in, day out. Once in a while you need an oil change, maybe you check the brake pads, whatever it is. But that's really what this Pinion system gets you, right? Is like, you're using this thing to get to the gym, to get to the friend's house, whatever it is, and you know when you jump on that thing, you're gonna be able to shift no problems, right? And like, if you are not maintaining your derailleur system, you might have some crunchy shifts, right? And that doesn't exist with the Pinion, right? And then not to mention just, you know, if you really wanna, you know, be diligent about the maintenance with your bike and you take it into your local bike shop with a derailleur system, you're gonna have to take it in relatively often just to get things tuned, brakes, everything like that. With the Pinion system, you know, you take it into the bike shop once every 6,000 or 7,000 miles. I mean, that's the cost savings there, the convenience. I mean, it's unmatched in the industry.
You know, this is our first fully aluminum fork. So it's an aluminum steer tube, which is what connects the stem to the wheel, let's say, and it's one piece. You know, most other companies, they do 2 or 3 or 4 pieces, and it's like, whoa, that's a lot of pieces. You know, this is a one-piece construction. It's more expensive, but it's lighter, and it's a much better riding experience for that customer. It really makes them connected to the bike with the through axle, with the one-piece steer crown. Like it's an awesome experience that when you're going through a turn, that through axle keeps everything locked in place. You're making that turn and it tracks all the way through. So when you're commuting to work, where you turn the wheel is where the wheel is gonna go. And that's most important to those customers.
I remember when the conversations were first going about, you were bringing components to me as options that were on bikes that were all north of $10,000, right? You were like, okay, we can use this, you know, smart shifting semi-automatic gearbox from Pinion. And I'm like, who? And so you're like, yeah, it's like the best engineering that possibly exists and whatever. The only bike that has it here in the US costs, you know, over 5 figures. And like, okay, let's table that idea for a bit. And then you're like, yeah, and Gates. I'm like, oh yeah, I know Gates. Like everybody loves Gates. And you're like, yeah, I want to work with the best from Gates only. And I'm like, oh, okay, so like we're really sending it, right? Then we're doing those decisions, but then it's like it must be paired obviously with, you know, our hydraulic brakes. So we got to put the hydraulic brakes on it. We want to have it still rock a 48 volt system. You know, there's a lot of commuter bikes out there that some are even doing 24 volts, so 24, 36 volts. Like, we still want it to have fun and be spry and whatever. And so having it be a 48 volt system, you know, that was one of those considerations. But I'm absolutely thrilled with the display that's been created here today. And it, you know, it just looks more premium. This is not a normal cadence sensor, right? When you think of a cadence sensor, this is not what you're thinking, because our traditional cadence sensors are what, 12 magnets? Like, what the heck is this?
So it's hard to explain sometimes, but it's like when your crank turns, you think of like a clock.
Yeah.
Okay. So on our system, if you think of a clock, there's 12 hours around the clock, and our normal cadence sensor has 12 magnets, that of like a clock on the hour. And so what we did is we worked with Pinion to get a cadence signal that's representative of 96 magnets. So, I mean, I'm bad at math, but that's a lot bigger of a number, okay? So what that equates to for the customer is that when they start pedaling, it's pretty seamless. It's like, hey, I've started pedaling and I'm getting power immediately. A lot of the other cadence sensors, or even the 12 magnet, you know, you have to go, you know, 1 or 2 o'clock before you start getting pedaling, or maybe even 3 o'clock before you get motor assistance. Here, you're getting motor assistance within, you know, I don't know what I want to equate it to, but like a couple of seconds, or no, not a couple of seconds, but you know what I mean? Like, it's much, much quicker.
Yeah.
And it's really the cutting edge of, you know, bicycle technology today, right? I mean, when is the last time you heard of automatic shifting on a bike? I had never heard of it until we started this conversation, and you know, Matt immediately went to Pinion, and it's not only is it, you know, semi-automatic shifting, but there is also electronic shifting, right?
Yeah.
So no cables, nothing to maintain there, you know.
No cable stretch, right?
No cable stretch.
The importance of that is just, it's consistency.
Today we have Dirk joining us from Pinion in Germany. Dirk, could you give us a little history lesson on Pinion?
Hello everybody, thanks for having me. I'm Dirk, and we at Pinion have been developing gearboxes for bicycles for over a decade now. The idea came to our two founders in 2006 at the Porsche Transmission Developing Center in Germany. Since then, we have been shaking up the gear shifting market. The unique thing about Pinion gearboxes is that they are positioned in the protective housing in the center of the bike. They are extremely reliable and virtually unbreakable.
German engineering is just world-renowned, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you've got so many iconic brands, car companies, you know, Bosch, a prominent e-bike system maker, is out of Germany, right? And I think that, you know, to hear that about Pinion's history and hear about, you know, that automotive heritage, right? This is an automotive company at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
They're making a bicycle component, but they come from that automotive lineage that's really built into the German people's DNA. And I think that, you know, speaks volumes about the company, and I think that comes through in their products in a big way.
100%. I mean, having visited their factory in Germany just, you know, 10 months ago, let's say, it was just unbelievable to see the type of quality inspection and the type of assembly that they follow. And it's really interesting to me to just have people try and understand that, and to hear Dirk talk about that, to hear us talk about it. You know, it's really going to be one of those things when the customer's riding the bike that they're going to quickly notice and appreciate, is that fine attention to detail and how the system behaves.
So what was the approach to integrating the different components here?
Together with Lectric, we have succeeded in designing an e-bike that combines the needs and challenges of our time with a modern approach of mobility. Let's face it, when we surround ourselves with technology today, we expect seamless integration. Lectric have managed to rethink the bicycle as a real vehicle with a unified approach. With a Pinion C1.6i Smart.Shift gearbox paired with the Gates carbon drive and a full power rear motor, the drivetrain is the heart of an e-bike.
So like, we have this incredible system. Like, Dirk, could you tell, you know, we know about it, but could you tell the viewers a bit more about what the Smart.Shift system is and does?
With the latest shifting technology from Pinion, Smart.Shift, you can shift gears electrically in milliseconds, in any situation, in a still stand, while coasting, or under full load.
So the whole millisecond thing, it was so funny when we first started this conversation with Pinion. I was like asking that question. You know, we had a system here that we were testing and looking at, and it's like, I was like, oh, like how fast? And talking to one of their engineers, he was like, well, it, you know, shifts in milliseconds. I was like, oh,
yeah,
like, what? You know, so when you use it and you try, you're like, wait, it already shifted? It's like, yeah, like by the time you press that button and you want to go into whatever gear, you're already there. Like, you know, your brain has to catch up to that.
When you're looking at the One, you know, you may be looking at it as a commuting solution. You want to ride this every day to and from the office or whatever your errands are. And so this is a transportation solution to its highest degree. And whenever you're making a decision like that, it's an investment. And you can know that this solution can be catered to your needs.
You know, coming from a shop perspective when I was younger and then working obviously in the industry, it's one of those things where, you know, you really want to see those bikes come through the shop, or you really want to, you know, get your hands on something like that that's so well engineered, so well thought of, and has that brand recognition that you're like, yeah, like that stands for something. So I remember having a Pinion bike come through the shop one time, and I was like, holy cow, like what is this?
Yeah.
And having like done that research, it's always been in the back of my brain of like, dang, how cool would it be if you like brought those two things together, the synchronization of like what Dirk is talking about, where you're kind of riding harmoniously with that pinion system and all the other components that are on the bike. And that was trying to answer, you know, your and Robbie's request of like, you know, what would be the ultimate commuter? And it's like, that is what that looks like.
Yeah, this idea of an effortless commute, that's just been one of those things that we've talked about. It's hassle-free, it's simple, right? It's like when you get in your car, you just get in your car and go. You don't give it additional thought. And it's kind of that, where it's all paired together. It's this semi-automatic shifting. Like it's beautiful and poetic in so many ways.
Yeah, I think that, you know, when we were doing a lot of the testing and, you know, I was first getting to ride one of these bikes with the Pinion Smart.Shift system, one of the things that stood out to me, you know, I live 16 miles away from the office, so I bike in when I can, but that's a real serious haul through the city of Phoenix.
With our latest shifting technology, we call it Smart.Shift, you can experience cycling in a whole new way. As you are used from your car, you can shift gears electronically whenever you want, or use the semi-automatic functions for fully intuitive cycling. The gears change with lightning speed and precision at all times.
One of the, you know, the best features which Dirk just spoke to there to me is when coming up to a stoplight, you know, if I'm on a regular bike that has a derailleur type system, you know, and I'm going 28 miles an hour, I'm in that, you know, that high end gear, I have to downshift as I'm coming up to the light and consciously remember to do that, because when I want to take off again, it's going to be really hard to keep pedaling if I don't downshift coming up to the light. So what's awesome about the Smart.Shift is it does that automatically, and it senses that my bike is slowing down, and it'll put me into that first gear. So then when I'm ready to go again, when the light turns green, I'm in the correct gear. And it's just, I mean, the amount of enjoyment and joy that brings me, like, cannot be understated how awesome that is.
Your new Lectric ONE is a companion you can always rely on. Every single day, every single pedal stroke. That's what we stand for.
Wow, awesome. Thank you, Dirk, for that, you know, insight and for the collaboration from your team and our.
I truly believe that this is a game changer for the industry in respect to a commuter bike. This can change the landscape now, because, you know, I've said it, but this is the best commuting bike under $10,000. It's just when you make a list and you put them all on there, my expectation is the One is the number one on that spot. And how is that going to change the market and demand the market to respond, working with engineering and technology solutions like we have today? It makes me very excited for the future of this space, and very bullish on the continued evolution of the e-bike in this market. I think it's still early innings. We've only been in this party for not even 5 years now, and we're now making stuff like this. Like, think back to we're not even gonna think about the LX, but you know, if you even just think of the XP 1.0 and the innovation that has come so far so quickly, it's got to make you really excited about where we're going in 4 or 5 more years from now. Well, awesome. Rob, thank you for coming and joining us today. I think what would be really helpful for some of the viewers watching this right now is who is Gates and whatever, because not everyone's a car or bike enthusiast. So who is Gates as a whole, and then talking a little bit more about the bike arm of Gates as well.
Yeah, great. Great to be here. Thanks for the invite. It's been a pleasure. So Gates is a 113-year-old company. Started in Denver, Colorado. They've been a global leader in power transmissions and belt technology. Found very much in the automotive industry, oil and gas. Gates, we always say it's the company that's in a lot of the products we use that you don't even know they're in there. So yeah, and then about 16 years ago, we got into the bicycle market. And it's been great. Yeah, and the product that Gates delivers is a carbon belt drive. What even is a carbon belt drive? What's it replacing on a traditional bike, and maybe why is it awesome? Yeah, it's really new technology that's for a bicycle, although it's been around for quite some time, but we're seeing a lot more of it now. And it replaces a dirty, greasy bike chain with a carbon fiber reinforced belt that never rusts, never stretches, and never needs any lubrication. Yeah, come on. That's so sick. Yeah. And I think you've said that before. So a Gates belt drive system, like there's longevity benefits, but there's also weight benefits if you want to hit on that a bit. Absolutely. It's super light. The belt is very, very light. Matter of fact, if you take the belt and both sprockets, put them on a scale, they are way less weight than just the chain. Yeah. Forget about the derailleur and the cassette and all the other parts of the chain drive system. Yeah. So very, very light, and also very, very strong. Yeah. So clean, quiet, smooth, strong, and light. Yeah. So those are the things that we really talk about with the belt. Like you hit on the no lube and whatever, but it's just the longevity aspect of this compared to a traditional chain. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that my team hears me say all the time is, I have a RAV4. I drive my RAV4 in the rain. I never have to take it home and oil it, right? I park it and I get back in it the next day and go for a drive. And that is what we want our bicycles to be able to do, is ride them hard, put them away wet, just get on the next day and go for a ride. I got sent a video of this belt drive it was just in a contraption where it was just going through mud over and over and over again. So it's using the CDC belt and the CDX sprocket. And so could you talk a little bit about the design of it and how that kind of just like... Yeah, you bet. So the belt has a split down the middle that allows that, and there's a track on the sprockets. And then when you look at the sprocket, there's really nothing else under there. So the belt holds on very, very tightly, very secure, and it just naturally pushes any debris right out of the drivetrain, so right out of the sprockets themselves. So it stays super clean. We've had our bikes out in the dirt, and it's really interesting because they'll come back and the whole bike is dirty, but if you look at the inside of the belt, it's totally clean. Yeah. So it's almost like self-cleaning. Wow. Yeah. That is so sick. And I've been throwing around some of the component names, and to give viewers perspective, the CDC for the belt is the second best belt that you guys do in this e-bike division, but also the CDX sprocket, that's the best sprocket that you guys do. Is both of that accurate? Correct. Yeah. The CDX is our top of the line, and that's the front sprocket on this bike. Yeah. And then the CDC, it's the CDC stands for commuter. Yeah. So this is our primary commuter belt. So you'll see a lot of these belts on certainly a lot of European commuter style bikes. But yeah, that's our commuter line. So very, very robust, very strong.
One question I have for you, Rob, is, we've talked about, a little bit of the longevity behind the belt and some of the technology, but could you speak to, how much longer do these things last than normal chains, and maybe give people a little bit of insight into what exactly do we mean when we say there's these carbon tensile? What does that look like, and the construction and stuff like that?
Yeah, so the belt, typically it's hard to say because riding conditions always change. And that is dependent on how long any part on your bike can last, depending on the terrain that you're and the conditions in which you're riding in. But we really say confidently about 2 to 3 times the life of your chain you'll get out of the belt. Yeah. And then the belt, the carbon fiber is a continuous piece. So it's one solid piece of carbon fiber, or threads of carbon fiber. And that's why you don't see any stretching. or any any need to adjust the belt as time goes on.
Yeah, no, that's something that we've talked about a little bit with regards to the Pinion system, that there's an app to dial in the functionality on that side. But in order to dial in the tension on the belt, when you're servicing the bike or whatever it is, it's actually really, really neat what you all have done there. So if you want to talk to that a little bit.
Yeah, so getting the right tension on the belt, if you do need to remove the rear wheel, we actually have an app for that. Yeah. So, and it's a really neat app, and it just you use the app and you pluck the belt like a guitar string, and it will tell you if the belt is in tension.
Wow.
So super cool.
That is so sick.
That seems just so futuristic to me that exists.
Well,
like, that's incredible.
And the wild thing is, like, of course, in the environment in which you do it, it's usually pretty quiet. But when we were developing this bike, there were certain scenarios where we're all around in a room talking about it. We're like, oh, we're just going to show the functionality of the app. The room was noisy, and you're still plucking it, and it still picks it up, and it still is measuring that. It's like it's an unbelievable app. It's so cool.
This is the same thing when we were talking about it and thinking of what drivetrain gearbox solution do we choose, right? It's like we want this bike to be the best, right? The number one commuter, the one. And it's just, when you do that, you have to work with the best. There's just no substitution for it. And that is what brought the conversation, because we know, and there's parts of the e-bike and bicycling community, and especially the automotive community, that knows the name Gates so well. And there's just so much trust behind it. And that is simply built by a reputation. And I've said it before, but it's just, a bike is made up of the components you select. And this is another excellent choice and collaboration to get the right part on the right bike. And it's really amazing to see it all come together after how long we've worked on this, for sure.
Yeah, it was like one of the first times since being here at Lectric where it was like round the clock. We've got calls with Pinion at 5 or 6 a.m.
Yeah.
I've got midday calls with Rob or driving home, and then we've got calls with counterparts in all parts of the globe at night. And it was just like, wow, this is crazy to just kind of see it all come together, and trying to triangulate that to put it the best way.
Yeah.
It's been a really fun product to create with everyone involved.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, you go to Eurobike, and the Europeans take their bicycles very seriously, because they're tools and they can't break down. That's how they rely on going to work, going to the grocery store, bringing their kids to school. And going to Eurobike and walking around to see how many Gates belts are there, you lose count. We tried. We went out and count. We were like, let's keep a count, and we lost count. So that's how well proven this system really is. Yeah, well, and especially the European market, we were chatting about this. The bike is just a part of their lives, right? And just like the car is here, where they go out and they grab it and they just expect it to work, whether it was sitting out in the rain all night or whatever. And that's why a choice in doing a belt drive, but specifically a Gates belt drive. This is why you make those decisions, because it is just going to work. It has that reliability. And I'm really stoked for customers to get to experience that.
Yeah. And I was, several years ago, let's say 2017, when I started working in the industry on this side of the equation, in the bike manufacturer world, we had always talked about the bike industry in the United States being about 10 years behind.
Yeah.
And then, revisiting those conversations with other people in our industry, they're like, oh no, that gap is like fast closing. So going back to this, belt drive, Pinion, all these components, you're going to start to see this pop up more and more, because it's been a proven thing in Europe or other parts of the world, and now the US is fast closing on that.
So we've spent so much time, when we were developing the X-Peak on the quiet motor, and we wanted to bring that motor here, but then you also want the rest of the bike to be quiet. So why would we pair a belt drive in terms of just noise reduction? You want to speak to that at all? Yeah, everyone's experienced a squeaky bike chain. Yeah. Whether it's the person riding next to you or you riding, and it can be a maddening sound. Yeah. And the belt never rusts, so you'll never have any squeaky belt. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So the belt is super quiet and really smooth. So when you're pedaling it, There's not gonna be any kind of lumps or anything like a stiff link would be in a chain. So very, very smooth and very, very quiet.
Yeah. Now that you've had the opportunity to ride the final product, right? The marriage of all these components coming together to create just a really sick bike. If you don't mind just hitting on what your thoughts are on the ride, because at the end of the day, it's a cool bike, cool components, whatever, but it's like the ride. That's all that matters, and I'd love to hear your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I've been riding bikes for a long time, probably well over 100,000 miles of riding on the streets. And what struck me about it was the comfort of the bike first and foremost, getting on it. And then the other thing was, while I was riding it, the stability of the bike, right? With the smaller wheels, but being able, and how nimble it is.
Yeah.
So, and with the Pinion, we always say, well, our friend Forrest Gump said, right? The Pinion and Gates go together like peas and carrots, right? So they really are they complement each other so well. So the bike really just has incredible power. It's really fun to ride. It's super stable, very nimble, quiet. It's a home run. Working with the Lectric product team on this bike has been incredible. It's been a huge pleasure. I've been in the bicycle industry 30 years. So I kind of see the sunset there, right? My career is coming to an end. But when I met Matt and the team here, it feels really good to pass the torch to this younger generation who's making really cool stuff, and they're really passionate about bikes. And that makes this old guy feel really good.
Oh man, that's so great. No, I've heard nothing but good things along the whole way, and just it just shows when you make a great product, you can tell that there was great work behind it by great people, and so thank you for that. But yeah, it's been awesome, and it's been a fun journey so far. But I don't think this should be the last bike we do with Gates. That's all I'm going to say. So,
I'd love to be back.
Very cool. Well, thank you, Rob, for joining the party and flying out. And yeah, this was fun.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks much.
Thanks, everybody. Yeah.
What the original vision and mission for this bike was is that we wanted it to be so easy, effortless commute that you can just get on, go, ride, and just not think about it. He's 6,000 to 7,000 miles you can ride this thing, and then you got to do a little oil change with your Pinion gearbox. It's like, how cool is that? And so and just the collaboration, we're gonna get into more of this later, but just the collaboration of the maintenance-free aspect of that and Gates. Come on, it's so cool.
Well, actually, speaking of maintenance, speaking of service, we actually have Zach from VPL North America here, basically kind of the Pinion North America arm. So I think we should bring him out and talk to him more about this.
Yeah, totally. We have Zach from VPL here with us now. Well, actually, Zach, I think it would be good to give the viewers some context of who you are and how you relate to Pinion and their service side and everything like that.
Yeah, so VPL is the North American distributor for Pinion, and we're also the service provider. So we help people like yourselves with the technical information on how to specify a Pinion system on a bicycle. And then we also are in the background to assist end consumers with any type of service or warranty that they may have.
Kind of the North America expert in respect to Pinion in terms of collaborating with people like us, but also the service side, And so like the consumer still gets to work with the Lectric customer service that we're known for, right? But they can know in the back end that there's a partnership between Lectric and VPL to ensure that we can take care of these customers and everything.
Yeah, it's interesting. You set up a service center with the intent to be able to provide that service for that end consumer, and you know that your potential failure rate is going to be substantially less than 1%.
Yeah.
But you want to have that backbone set up so that something that happens that you didn't quite think could have happened can be taken care of.
Sure.
And that's what we're focused on. And sometimes it's just that the product is very well used. It's it's got 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 miles on it, and then it's more of a service thing or a refurbishment thing, similar to how people are already used to being trained. You change the oil in your car, you would do the same thing with the Pinion system. And so then there's other things that are like a crash. It's a crash on the bike. It's when you are transporting the bike somewhere else and there's a crash. Then it's a structural thing that we can take care of. We can do a full refurbishment, take everything inside, and rebuild it.
Yeah.
So I know that, we have a Lectric service network. We've partnered with a ton of shops all over the country. We have a bike shop here. We have our customer service team here. So can you talk a little bit about, kind of the relationship between Lectric and VPL in terms of technical information on, kind of that first step before we're sending Pinion gearboxes to VPL or, however that happens. What are kind of some of the training materials and stuff that happen there?
I think that whole process started with, hey, we've got this concept for a bike. Let's start with the 3D CAD. Let's look at the implementation of this gearbox with a propulsion system that we have today.
Yep.
How would this look? Looking at all of the integration of things that were already developed at Pinion and then saying, actually, we would like to do something a little bit different there. And we would like to do something different here, and let's optimize this. And so that I think you and Mark massaged out, and then it very quickly became something that was Pinion Germany as well, and then it started to morph into your assembler.
100%. I mean, it's crazy the amount of resources that Pinion VPL offer in terms of troubleshooting of like, hey, let's say this scenario pops up, this is how you solve that issue. It was like quite the depth of knowledge to digest. And then it was like, okay, we took it one step further with Pinion, we took it one step further with VPL in how that Smart.Shift box actually gives a cadence signal to our bike. And that's how it actually activates the motor. So there was this whole other layer of, okay, what are we going to do for troubleshooting and how are we going to tackle that for our customer service, our bike shops, our bike shop service network. And really it's that working together with the right partners to say, okay, we're going to, do the training that we need to help our customers as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's magic what you guys have done, really. And it's exciting because you're taking this unbelievable premier product and you're bringing it at a price point that I don't think anyone would have believed was possible.
Yeah, but I did ask you of like, hey, based on this spec that I've put on this bike and everything, what is your recommendation? Do you want to share what your advice to me that I didn't listen to was?
What did I say? 3,000, $29.99? Was that the number? What did I say? $49.99?
Yeah, I think.
I forget.
We started at 6,000, and then I tried to work you down to 5,000.
Yeah.
And then once I got you down to 5,000, I wanted to go down even a little further. And then we were at that $3,000 price point where, you were like, you're still insane, and we were pretty comfortable. And then I said, I'm not doing that. I'm doing 2,000. And so it was a fun little game that we played together with each other. But yeah.
Still looking at the price point at 6,000 today for the performance that you get.
We're not doing 6,000, Zach.
It's like, how is that possible? And it's amazing.
Yeah.
It really is.
This is a technology that the enthusiasts really appreciate and crave and want, right? The cycling community in particular has high praise for the Pinion system. I'm very much looking forward to seeing the average consumer's reaction to this product.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
That?
I mean, my perception of Pinion from when they first came out was always like endurance. This is the world traveler bike. This is a touring bike. This is a mountain bike, and it's this premier thing. And it's going to be interesting to see what the perception of that is. That trickle down to the average consumer is, and is it that the endurance carries over? Is it the ability to service it? Is it just that it's good for 200,000 miles? I'm not sure, but I don't know if your perception was similar to that from day one, but I am very interested to see how this changes from the garden variety consumer.
Yeah.
Not the cyclist.
There has kind of been this lack of excitement in the market, for a while now, right? Where people want to see innovation, people want to see crazy splashes happening, right? And I think that's what we're trying to do with this type of product, right, is really take the innovation to the next level and bring this technology that people don't even know exists to a price point that people can actually afford and get on, right?
Yeah,
and I think that
mainstream.
exactly, fully bring it to the mainstream, right? And really take something that is really well built, well engineered, and kind of a niche thing, and bring it to people and just, you know, allow them to make the judgment for themselves how awesome it is.
Yeah. Zach, you have been in this industry far longer than probably I've ever even been alive, and I would love to get your perspective on the marriage of the whole bike. What's your opinion of the ride?
Yeah, well, so I rode it for the first time, a couple of hours ago.
Yeah.
And I had seen various images over the past 4 or 5 months of it starting to evolve, and this is the first production version that I saw. And so, you know, seeing it, I'm like, wow, that's super sharp. Seeing everything come together there, it just is so well put together. But then getting on the bike, it's tight.
Yeah.
It's a rocket ship. It has a lot more possibilities, even outside of commuting. To me, I mean, it's a little rocket ship. It's cool.
Yeah, that's kind of what we're aiming for, and that's kind of one of the reasons we when we were doing this product, we wanted it to still have a really fun throttle, and that's sometimes a challenge when going with other types of solutions for a commuter bike, especially if it's being paired with a belt drive and whatever.
I mean, I think that this is really Lectric's engineering, you know, pièce de résistance, I believe they say, or something like that, right? And I mean, I think that this is, you know, for Lectric, right, I think there's sometimes a perception out there from customers who aren't real familiar with our company, you know, that we aren't doing a lot on the development side, right? Sure. And at the end of the day, we've had a large product development team for some time now and been doing a ton of development ourselves here. And you know, I think this product is really getting to the heart of that and showing this is the absolute best product that we can do, right? Like, this is the entire frame, front to back, including the fork, was engineered by the Lectric engineering team, right? The amount of time, this is probably the longest development lead time we've ever had for a product, right? You know, every single spec decision that Matt made, or every component that was engineered, I mean, it was 100% getting at how do we make the best commuting tool of all time. And so, you know, the power to weight ratio on this bike is the highest power to weight ratio of any e-bike ever made that fits in the 3-class legal definition of an e-bike.
Yeah.
And, you know, the 20-inch wheels with the 750-watt motor,
yeah.
I mean, that's how we get to that acceleration, right? And some people might look at this bike and go, well, why'd you go with the small wheels? Why didn't you go with something that's more familiar to people, to everyday consumers, you know, that see commuting bikes? And part of the reason is you don't need that larger wheel size, and it really doesn't get you anything. What do these 20-inch wheels get you? They get you that crazy acceleration off the line, and you end up saving a ton of weight on this thing. And so this bike, highest power weight to ratio of any e-bike ever made, and it's usable, right? Like, this thing is under 60 pounds, still able to be carried, you know, upstairs or what have you, right? The stem and the handlebars fold down, so throwing this thing in the trunk of your car, in the back of your car, right? I mean, we were talking about these other products with the Pinion system being north of $10,000. They're also up near 100 pounds in weight, right? And that's just not practical for a lot of people, right? So this, you know, we really just, every single decision was so intentional. How can we make this thing as utilitarian as possible, address as many use cases as possible, and just make it fun?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I mean, this is probably now, I think, my personal favorite electric e-bike, you know? It's just, it's awesome.
I mean, it's simple to say that it works.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
for the customer to walk up to the bike, had a long day, or maybe they got groceries, they're getting on the bike, it just works in that form that we have consistently. And I think that's the other thing, is like, it works consistently. You don't have to do any sort of fine tuning or fiddling or breaking out a small, you know, multi-tool and be like, I gotta adjust something. You don't have any of that.
Yeah.
And that speaks volumes to the customer where they don't have to think about it. We already thought about it for them.
Yeah. All right, awesome. Well, I think this was really great, and now it's the fun part. Now we get to actually start selling these things and shipping them all over. So hopefully there's no maintenance needs or service problems that we're gonna have to reach out to you for. But appreciate you being a part of this whole journey.
Mark is just standing by.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, yeah. He's just sitting there. He just wants to work on one of the bikes too. I'm sure of it.
Yep.
Cool. Awesome,
We're
man.
really excited.
All right. Thanks, Zach.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you guys.